Welcome to Enter the Jam. Today we're going to count down the top 15 most iconic guitars of all time, who owns them, and what makes them so special. With that being said, let's get right into it. Number 15, Keith Richards Macabre. Eric Clapton gifted Macabre to Richards for his 27th birthday when the Rolling Stones were preparing to work on Exile on Main Street. Keith Richards made a variety of modifications to the guitar, including swapping out the pickups, changing the bridge, and removing the low E string altogether. To this day, Macabre remains one of Richards' go-to guitars, both in studio and on stage. Number 14, Steve Vai's Evo. Steve Vai worked closely with Ibanez to create a guitar that he could make his go-to model. After many modifications and specifications, Vai felt something special about Evo. There was something about the touch and the sound that moved him. He once stated, "To this day, whenever I see her, my heart goes pitter-patter. Regardless of what's going on in my life, highs or lows, Evo is always a tender sanctuary." Number 13, Willie Nelson's Trigger. The story goes that Willie Nelson's old guitar was destroyed by a drunk fan in 1969. Then he sought to sound closer to Django Reinhardt. Since then, it has been Nelson's go-to guitar and has seen more mileage than perhaps any other guitar in history. Trigger gets a yearly checkup and has received maintenance and repairs since 1977 by luthier Mark Erlewine. Number 12, Brian May's Red Special. This guitar was designed and built by Brian May and his father. He designed it to feed back after being inspired seeing Jeff Beck play live, seeing all the different sounds he could make just by moving the guitar in front of his amp. May has used this guitar almost exclusively, and it has been used on Queen's greatest songs. Number 11, Jerry Garcia's Tiger. First used in 1979, this model was built custom for Jerry Garcia by luthier Doug Irwin. The guitar uses a variety of woods and a solid brass binding, making the guitar abnormally heavy. The varieties of wood led this guitar to be referred to as a hippie sandwich. Following his death in 1995, it was revealed that the guitar was willed to its creator, Doug Irwin, who later sold it at auction for $957,000. Number 10, John Mayer's Black One. John Mayer's go-to Stratocaster was created in 2004. He had a direct hand in the guitar's creation, from the specs to the modifications. He even painted the guitar's body black himself. After spending time on it, he claimed the sound wasn't quite there, so he decided to put it in the freezer overnight, but nothing changed until he opened the guitar to find a disconnected piece, which when was connected, created the sound heard on some of Mayer's most iconic tracks. Number 9, George Harrison's 12-string Rickenbacker. This guitar was given to George Harrison by the owner of Rickenbacker Guitar Company in 1964. John Lennon initially tried to play the 360-12, but thought it would be better for George. When George returned from his illness and got to play the guitar, he loved it immediately. The 360-12 that George Harrison owned was only the second Rickenbacker 12-string ever made. It made its way onto some of the Beatles' most iconic songs, mainly on the album A Hard Day's Night. Number 8, Stevie Ray Vaughan's Number 1 Strat. Stevie Ray Vaughan acquired his go-to Fender Stratocaster from the owner of an Austin, Texas music shop in 1973. The guitar was allegedly rebuilt many times. Before his death in 1990, Stevie was working with Fender on a consumer line of his iconic Number 1 Strat. After his death, his brother Jimmy Vaughan carried the torch with Fender till the product's release in 1992, now as a tribute. Number 7, Prince's Cloud. This guitar was built for Prince by a Minneapolis luthier named Dave Roussan. Roussan had a store that Prince frequented as a teenager. One day, Prince came in and spoke with the owner about a custom build for a movie he was working on. The guitar was then delivered to Prince and used in his iconic 1984 film, Purple Rain. Of course, Purple Rain was not the Cloud's last appearance, as it was often used by Prince in subsequent years. Number 6. David Gilmour's Black Strat. David Gilmour purchased the guitar in 1969. It was originally a Sunburst Strat but was repainted. The guitar also went through numerous modifications. Temporarily in the 90s, the guitar was retired and put on display at a Hard Rock Cafe in Dallas. It sustained significant damage and theft of many of its parts. Due to the constant modifications, the only original parts on the guitar, apart from the body, are believed to be the pickup selector switch and possibly the bridge plate. In the late 90s, the guitar was returned to Gilmour. After its repair, Gilmour began to use it again. He sold it at auction in 2019 for charity for around $4 million. Number 5. Eric Clapton's Blackie. Clapton first used Blackie in a 1973 concert. He would use it on and off until 1985 when it was retired due to issues with its neck. The guitar was used on some of the most iconic Clapton recordings, including Cocaine, I Shot the Sheriff, Wonderful Tonight, Lay Down Sally, and several live versions of Layla. It was then seen again in 1990 in a Honda commercial where Clapton recorded a solo on Bad Love using Blackie. In 2019, the guitar was put on display in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Number 4. B.B. King's Lucille. Lucille was the name B.B. King gave to any of his guitars, commonly a Gibson ES-330. The story goes, during a live performance, two men began to fight, knocking over a barrel of burning kerosene. The venue burst into flames and was evacuated. He realized that he left his guitar inside, so he went back into the burning building to retrieve his beloved guitar. King learned the next day that the two men who started the fire had been fighting over a woman who worked at the hall named Lucille. B.B. King did not know Lucille, but named that guitar and every guitar he subsequently owned Lucille, as a reminder never again to do something as stupid as run into a burning building or fight over a woman. Number 3. Jimmy Page's EDS 1275. This guitar became famous after its use on iconic live performances of Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven. Gibson released this model of guitar in the late 50s as an option to switch from a 12-string to a 6 quickly in the middle of a live performance, which obviously benefited Page in a variety of ways. Jimmy Page made a variety of modifications to the guitar to achieve its iconic sound. Due to its popularity, thanks to Jimmy Page, Gibson revived the model in 1977 after not being produced for 6 years, and is still produced to this day. Number 2. Jimi Hendrix's Monterey Strat. Jimi Hendrix took the world by storm with his incredible Monterey Pop Festival performance. This legendary performance ended with Hendrix setting this hand-painted Stratocaster on fire, burning it in a sacrificial manner. This guitar only survives in photo and video as it was destroyed in the fire. Fender has since released a tribute model of the same painted pattern. And number 1, Franken Strat. Built by Eddie Van Halen himself, this guitar was supposed to combine elements of different guitars in a Frankenstein manner. The Franken Strat was Van Halen's attempt to combine the sound of a classic Gibson guitar with the physical attributes and tremolo bar functionality of a Fender Stratocaster. There's perhaps no guitar this famous that has gone through so many modifications, all to achieve the iconic sound of one of the greatest guitars of all time, a true singularity in guitar manufacturing.